What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another deck profile, and today I've got an updated Altergeist list. And before I hop into it, I want to say thank you guys for all the recent support. We're really close to that goal of mine of 150 before July 6th. And I wanted to just say thank you real quick. And if you guys enjoy this deck profile, share it around to your friends. Let's get the word out. And without much more being said, let's get into the deck profile. Starting us off with basically we're going to start off with the main deck Altergeist. 3 copies of Multi-Faker. Multi-Faker is the best Altergeist card by a mile. When you activate a trap on your opponent's turn, you can special summon it. Whenever it's special summoned, you can special summon another one from the deck. Easy peasy. That's all you need to know about it. That's all it does. It's just the best card in the deck. I believe it was limited or semi-limited at one point. I know over in the OCG it is semi-limited. Or at least on Master Duel it's semi-limited. I think in the OCG it's still limited. Next we're on 3 copies of Altergeist Marionetter. Marionetter has the effect whenever it is normal summoned, you can set an Altergeist trap directly from your deck. It also has the effect that you can target an Altergeist in your graveyard, send a Altergeist you control to the graveyard, and special summon that monster from your graveyard. Really good card. Really good recursion. Gives you the ability to use Marionette or Multi-Faker on your turn, as well as being able to use it on your opponent's turn. Next, we're on 3 copies of Altergeist Meliaseek. Meliaseek has the effect that it can attack your opponent's life points directly. Whenever it inflicts damage to your opponent, you can send a card they control to the graveyard, and whenever this card goes to the graveyard, by any means, you can add an Altergeist from your deck to your hand. Really solid card. I love this card. It gives you a lot of windows to be able to do certain things and play the deck in ways that you probably wouldn't think about. Next, I'm on 2 copies of Silquidus. I used to be on 3, and to be honest, I have the 3rd one in the side deck. A little bit of a spoiler for later on in the video, but the 3rd one is in the side. And I really love this card. It's got a quick effect to bounce an Altergeist you control back to the hand to bounce a card your opponent controls back to the hand as well. Just really good interruption. And then if it goes to the graveyard, you can add an Altergeist trap from your deck to your hand. Or not from your deck. From your graveyard to your hand. From your graveyard to your hand. Not deck. Graveyard. Next, I'm on 1 copy of Altergeist Pukiri. Pukiri is just microcoder, but for Altergeist. If you would link summon an Altergeist link monster, you can use this as material from the hand, which gives you the ability to go normal summon Meliaseek, use it and Pukiri, make Hextia turn 1, and also not only do that, but you can chain block the search off of Meliaseek with Pukiri's effect to add itself back to the hand. The add back to hand effect is once per duel, so I would keep that in mind. Next, we have 1 copy of Altergeist Conqueri. Conqueri is a attack negate as well as being an effect negate, and it's just a really big body. You can, whenever your opponent declares an attack, summon it from the hand, negate the attack, then target a monster on the field, negate its effects, and it's not allowed to attack while Conqueri is face up on the field. Really solid card, and that is going to be it for the Altergeist monsters. Now, getting into the Altergeist trap cards, we have 3 copies of Altergeist Protocol. Protocol is the best trap in the archetype of Altergeist. While it's face up, the activated effects of Altergeist monsters you control cannot be negated, which makes one of the side deck options in this deck really good for most of the activated effect cards. And then on top of that, you can send an Altergeist you control from field to the graveyard, an Altergeist card from field to the graveyard other than itself, to negate and destroy a monster. So if your opponent goes normal summon Rabina effect, you can go, oh, Protocol, let me send my Meliaseek to the graveyard. negate and destroy your Rabina. And then, just really good like that. Next, we're on 3 copies of Personal Spoofing. Personal Spoofing, I wish was an Altergeist card, either by name or by text on the card. However, I can see why it's not. This card just lets you dodge out of everything by putting your Altergeist monsters from hand or field back into the deck and searching for another one. So you can always, like, oh, my opponent's going to run over my Multi-Faker. Oh, put it back into the deck, grab Conquery, summon itself from the hand on attack deck. So, spoofing, I can understand why it's not an Altergeist card by name, and it's very, very strong. And then I'm on 1 copy of Manifestation. Manifestation has the effect to basically Call of the Haunted. This is basically an archetype Call of the Haunted, except it's not a continuous trap. It just equips itself to the monster, and then if the monster leaves the field, this card would obviously self-destruct because, it's a normal trap. It also has an effect where you can banish it from the graveyard to add an Altergeist trap from your graveyard back to your hand. This also has a very interesting interaction with Silquidus. Silquidus can continuously grab this back to hand every time it leaves the field. So if you have Silquidus, or if you have Protocol plus this plus Silquidus in your graveyard, you can constantly go flip Manifestation, grab Silquidus, activate Marionetter in hand, summon another Altergeist from the deck. And then you can always go Silquidus, bounce back the Multi-Faker, or the other monster you summon. And then you can always Protocol, send the Silquidus. This would fall off to negate and destroy monster effect. Then on Resolution, you could always Silquidus, grab this back to your hand. And then on your next turn, you can set it, normal summon a Marionetter to grab whatever, or normal summon a Meliseek to start chipping away your opponent's life points or their board, and so on and so forth. Just really good overall. Next, we're going to start covering the more generic options. Starting us off, we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and 2 copies of Nibiru for our monster-based hand traps. These cards are just really good in the current metagame, as far as I'm aware. I know Kashtira summons a bunch of times, especially if they're able to pump out 3 Xyz monsters turn 1. You can always just Nibiru, effect in hand, tribute off the entirety of the board, and slap a Fat Rock on your opponent's board, and not as Fat Rock on your side of the board as well. And that is going to be it for the generic monsters. Now we're going to get into the spells, and there's one that I'm going to talk on a little bit longer than everything else thus far, and that's 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. This card is not cheap by any means, and I understand that. I was lucky to have pulled all 3 of mine from the Megatins that I opened on this channel. So take this with a grain of salt. But if you don't want to drop the money on this card is $51 a piece for the Megatin print. I don't blame anybody for not wanting to drop $150 on an Altergeist deck just for 3 cards. So, if you want, the budget option is Pot of Extravagance. It has a bunch of printings already. It has a common printing and a structure deck. I recommend picking that up instead of Prosperity. Unless you have the money for Prospe, then go ahead and pick up your Prospes. But I highly, highly, highly recommend, if you're building this deck on a budget, do not pick up Prosperity. It is not worth, wasting $150 on. But with that being said, what does it do? Well, you can banish 3 or 6 cards from your extra deck, your choice, face down, and then you excavate cards equal to the number banished, and you can add any of them from your deck to your hand. It's basically like Pot of Duality, but better, because the only restriction is, or the only downside is, your opponent takes half damage. But if you're going first, this card just says, oh yeah, look at the top 6, or just add something off the top 6. and then you put the rest on the bottom in any order. Yeah, just super good. Then I'm running 3 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcaster. Secret Village of the Spellcaster just shuts your opponent out of spells whenever you have a spellcaster, but if you don't have a spellcaster, you're shut out of spells, which in a trap deck doesn't really hurt too much, but all of our monsters are essentially spellcasters except for a couple of our hand traps. Then I'm on 2 copies of Crossout Designator and 1 Called by the Grave. These both serve the same purpose of being anti-ash. You could also run other hand traps in the deck, but for the most part, it's more ash that hurts this deck. Nibiru doesn't really hurt this deck because you don't really summon more than 5 times. And if you do, I'll be honest with you, you're probably playing the wrong deck. And that is it for the main deck. Or not the main deck as a whole, but the spells in the main deck. We are now moving on to the generic traps, which is 3 copies of Imperm and 3 copies of Metaverse. Imperm is invaluable in this deck. It provides so much for you if you lose the die roll and you go second. You see this plus Multi-Faker in your opener, and you just are like, oh, well, now I have, 2 interruptions on my opponent's turn on top of whatever else I have in my hand. So if you have this plus Faker plus Ash, you have 3 interruptions turn 1 without even playing the game. And then Metaverse is there for grabbing Secret Village. And that is it for the main deck. Now let's get into the extra and side deck. And the extra deck, it's definitely more based around you're just activating the pot cards and you're using your main deck to win the game. We have 3 copies of Memory Gint. I don't bother with its effect. It has a boosting effect where you contribute, or where you can quick effect tribute another Altergeist you control, and it gains attack equal to the tributed monster's attack. And then whenever it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can destroy, whenever this card destroys a monster by battle, you can destroy another monster your opponent controls. And then, this card can make another attack. It also has, and then if this would be destroyed, you can banish banish a monster from your graveyard instead. Sorry, I've never read Memory Gint because I never summon it, but it helps you push for game pretty well. You can always swing in with Melee Seek, send something they control to the graveyard, swing with this quick effect, send the Melee Seek to the graveyard, boost this thing by like 500, making it 33, which is probably going to be big enough to get over anything. Kill a monster by battle, then send something else when your opponent controls the graveyard and attack again. And it's just overall pretty good. Next, we're on 3 copies of Hextia. It gains attack equal to whatever it points to, and you can tribute an Altergeist, or when your opponent activates a spell or trap, you can tribute an Altergeist, negate and destroy the spell trap. Just really good. And then if it goes to the graveyard, you can add an Altergeist card from your deck to your hand, which is very important because being able to just search any Altergeist card is very nice. Then we're on 3 copies of Prime Banshee. Again, another one that you're probably never going to be summoning, so I'm actually going to glance over Prime Banshee for now. I do recommend reading it in your own time, maybe. Like I said, a lot of these are things that I don't summon, and if you summon them, you're pushing for game. Then I'm on 3 copies of Kadolga. This is something you're just going to banish off of Prosby. It's the freest banish in the world. And that's really all I have to say about Kadolga. Next, we're on 1 Anima, 1 Almirage, 1 Unicorn. Removal, and then both of these can be made using your Melee Seek to get a search. That is going to be it for the extra deck. Now let's get into the side deck. And one of the first cards we're going to be talking about is 3 copies of Lancia. Lancia is basically our anti-cash hand trap. If you go into siding, you side into your Lancias because Lancia says neither player can banish, which is really strong against cash. Then we're on our 3rd copy of Nibiru and 3rd copy of Liquidus in the side deck. Just because I feel like having the 3rd copies as options in the side deck is very invaluable. Liquidus is just super good in and of itself. And then I'm also on the 3rd copy of Crossout Designator here in the side deck, because if you feel like you're not seeing your designators or your called bys, or if called by isn't doing anything, you can always side into this, and then you have a 3rd copy to call Nibiru with if you ever need to call Nibiru, which if you're calling Nibiru with Crossout, what the hell are you doing? How are you summoning 5 times in a turn? Or 5 monsters in a turn? Next, for one of our board breakers here in the side deck, we're also on 3 copies of Evenly Matched. This is a similar situation where you can go battle phase, end of battle phase, activate it from the hand, and then you go multi-faker on Resolution. Just really, really good, really solid card. Then I'm also on 3 copies of Anti-Spell in the side deck because Anti-Spell to me just screams, yes, Secret Village didn't do it, and I would rather have the trap activation. So, and you can also side out the metaverses, so you could always go into both of these, or you could go into 3 copies of Skill Drain with 3 copies of Anti-Spell by siding out your Secret Village and your metaverses between games. I'm going to pause the recording here. It's only going to take a second for y'all, but I'm going to get everything sorted out so that way I can do the outro. Alright, and that is the Altergeist deck profile. I hope you guys did enjoy. Again, I want to iterate this one last time. Thank you all so very much for the recent support. I want to hit that goal of 150 before July 6th. And if we hit it, I'll be super ecstatic, and I already have the deck built. That's going to be the special deck profile for that. It's going to be a deck that my friend plays in paper. We modified it a little bit. However, like I said, it's going to be the 150 subscriber special. Also, if you feel like any of my deck profiles are really, budgetary friendly or very beginner friendly, because I feel like a lot of my decks I build are on that, spectrum of being friendly towards either end of that, where it's like new players getting in, or players with a budget, or players that are both new and on a budget. Share these videos around to them. I try to make the most budgetary decks that I can, and I also try to make more fun related decks, and so on and so forth. I have another deck in the works. However, for right now, I'm not sure how long that one's going to take. I might be out of deck profiles for a little bit. The side deck was supposed to be updated a little bit more than what it was in this video. But again, with that being said, I will see everybody in the next video or the next live stream. I live stream every Thursday when I record these videos. So I will see you all then. And again, thank you all so much. Peace.